Hey everyone, this is DJ. Welcome to my channel. With more and more people buying soundbars these days, I decided to start doing some reviews on some of them, and I'm going to start with the Samsung, the HW-Q67CT. Now there's certain things that when you're purchasing a soundbar, you need to pay attention to. Depends on what you're looking for, of course. If you're just looking for something a little better than the sound of your speakers, then a 2.1 or a 2.0 will actually do. You will get a lot more sound. But if you're looking for a little more out of your soundbar, like you're looking for surround and connecting other devices to it, if it has an HDMI input, if there's HDMI ARC on there, which version of HDCP does it have, all that we're going to be talking about in this video. So let's take this one out of the box, see what's included, and check it out right after this. Alright, now that we got everything out of the box, I'm going to spare you the unboxing part. I don't find it too exciting watching somebody take one thing at a time out of a box. So pretty much this is everything that you will get inside this box. Starting from the back, you have your soundbar. Then we got our subwoofer, a user manual, remote control. Now this package does come with surround speakers. So you get an amplifier receiver module over here with the 2 surround speakers. Speaker wires to connect the speakers to the module. The module is wireless from the soundbar, but the speakers have to be wired to this. It comes with an HDMI high-speed cable, no optical cable in the package. You get 3 power cords. They're all the same. Doesn't matter which one you use on which device. They all have the figure 8 connection. You have a power brick for the soundbar and mounting hardware if you want to mount it to the wall. Let's go talk about each one of them at a time and see what they're all about. So we're going to start with the soundbar. So let me just clean this up a little bit and be right back. Alright, now this soundbar, it's 38.6 inches wide, it's 2.3 inches high, and 4.2 inches in depth, and it weighs about 7.8 pounds. Starting from the top, you got the Samsung logo over here. You got your controls on the top over here. You can turn it on and off. You got your power, you got your volume controls over here, and also your input selection over here. Also, there's 2 up-firing speakers on the top. One of them is right over here, as you can see right across this line. Now, these are designed as a kind of like a flute, where you got little holes over here. I'm not sure if you can see it very clear, and that's where the sound comes through. And other than that, that's about it for the top. If we go into the front of the soundbar, you got 3 speakers. You got your left, right, center channel, and also in the corner there's a little display over here, a little square box if you can see that. This is where you're going to see which input you're on. If you're adjusting the volume or any other settings, it's show right from there. In the back, there's really nothing back here. It just tells you that you have Dolby Audio, DTS surround, digital surround, DTS Virtual X, HDMI, and then Energy Star. And that's about it. And if you go on the bottom, you got your mounting holes over here for the brackets if you want to hang it from the wall. And then you got your inputs. If we start from the left side, you have a USB over here port. It's 5 volts, half amp. And then your DC input over here, 24 volt. Now the USB port over here, it will only play music files. You cannot play any video through there. And you can also use it to update the firmware when there's a new update out there. You gotta have to check with the manufacturer or the Samsung website. And that goes for any other soundbar that you have. If they have a USB port, a lot of them may be able to update through the USB. If we go to the opposite side, you have two ports over here. So you got your HDMI input in here, and then your HDMI output, which is ARC, that connects to your TV. Now your TV needs to be equipped with a HDMI ARC port. If it doesn't have it, then you can use the optical connection over here, digital audio. It uses a Toslink. Now the HDMI input, this is a 4K pass-through. So if you have a 4K Fire Stick, a Blu-ray, or any other device, you can hook it up over there. The HDMI ARC, that will connect to your TV, will play whatever you got on the input. Now one thing you need to keep in mind, the HDMI ARC output over here is HDCP 2.1. There's a lot of people that are not familiar with HDCP, which stands for High Bandwidth Digital Content Protection. Is a new way, not really new, it's been out for years. But what it does is it creates a handshake between the device, like a soundbar, an AV receiver, Blu-ray, to a TV or display. Now, why this matters to you, since this is 2.1, my TV is 2.2. If I connect a 4K Fire Stick over here, for example, it will not play the 4K content. I will get either a message that it's going to be downgraded to 1080p, or you may even get a blank screen. HDCP needs to be the same version, especially for 2.2. 2.1 was backwards compatible with 2.0. 2.2 is not. So when you purchase something, you got to make sure you have the same versions. So if you're upgrading your soundbar, you got to make sure this is HDCP 2.2 if you want to use the HDMI input to play 4K content. If you don't really care for that and you 1080p is fine, then you don't have to worry about that. But just something to keep in mind. All right. Now, put this back down. If you want to mount it to the wall, it does come with the brackets. And all you do, just place them right there. Just like so. And they do provide you, like I said, with the screws to screw it down to the soundbar. And then what do? They provide you with this little plastic cylinder. Now this, you're going to screw this into the wall. That's all it is. They give you a little measuring chart over here and guide. So if we open this up, you're going to bring it over here. Make sure you're using the A section over here. And then you're going to take that. You're going to place it on the wall where you want to mount the soundbar. Kind of like level it. And then you drill the holes according to where the holes are right over here. This part will screw into the wall. They do not provide you with screws for mounting this to the wall. You have to provide your own screws. So it depends on which way you're going to screw it into the wall. If you're going to go straight into a stud or you need some anchors, you have to provide that yourself. Then once you do that, you just slide the bracket just like that. That's all it is. And it just hangs from the wall from there. Now if you're going to mount this on the wall, make sure you mount it below the TV. You want to keep the soundbar as close to your ear level as possible to get the best sound. And that's about it for the soundbar. I think we covered everything over there. So let's move on to the surround speakers. Now for the surround speakers that are included, this package does include surround speakers, like I said before. They're really not that big. They measure 3 inches by 3 inches by 5 inches height. They weigh about a pound. The speaker that's inside over here is 2.5 inches. They're both color coded in the back. Let's turn this around. Each one will say surround right, surround left. The speaker wire that's included is color coded too. So you're gonna match that in the back of the receiver over here. Amplifier receiver module is included. The speaker wire is 13 feet long. If you need to splice it and make it longer, you can just connect it at the bottom over here. Just add the wire down here. Do not cut this plug off. You don't want to do that. Now when you're connecting the speaker wire to the speaker over here, the size of this wire is very small. It's very thin wire, but it will do the job. One thing you got to keep in mind is when you're going to connect these, you want to make sure that you don't go too far in. Just open this up, connect it like that, and make sure you're not grabbing the insulation of the speaker wire. Otherwise it's not going to work and you're going to think something's wrong either with the module or the speaker. And that's it. If we move this on the side, these can be placed on a table. It does have some rubber feet underneath. And also if you want, you can use a keyhole. You can mount on the wall, or you can use a speaker stand. The amplifier receiver module over here, you got the same thing. You got your connections over here, left and right. You have an ID set. This is if for somehow this doesn't connect automatically to your soundbar. You press down in this hole. There's a little switch in there. You press down for 5 seconds, and then you grab the remote from the soundbar, and on the directional pad you press the up for 5 seconds there, and you will notice on the soundbar and the little display it will say ID set, and it will start the process from there. Down here you got your power connection. The power cord does not have a power brick. It's just directly to an outlet. The cord is 6 feet long, so you got to make sure this is close by a power outlet. And also the distance of this module from the soundbar is up to 30 feet. So you got to keep that in mind. Depends on where you're going to place it. It can be further than 30 feet from the soundbar. In the front of it, all you have is your link and your standby. When the power of the soundbar is off, the standby will be red, and where it says link, when it's connected and it's on, it will be solid blue. If somehow it's blinking, that means it's not connected to the soundbar, and you got to do the pairing process. And that should cover the surround speakers. We're going to see how they perform after when we cook it up. So let's move on to the subwoofer. Now the subwoofer is made out of wood. It weighs 8.8 pounds and it measures 7.2 inches wide, 13.5 inches high, and 10.7 inches in depth. The amp is rated at 130 watts. Flip it over on the top and the front of it over here. Now it does come with a 6.5 inch woofer in here. That's all you have over there. A couple of ports over here in the front. In the back you got a port. This is a ported subwoofer. And then you got your power connection over here. Put it down over here. And also you have your link, your standby, and your ID set in the back. The same thing when the subwoofer is connected. This will be a solid blue. On the standby it will be red when it's powered off. And then you can press the button over here if the subwoofer is not connected. Same process, press down for 5 seconds, grab your remote, press the up on the directional pad, hold it down for 5 seconds, and you will notice on the soundbar and the display that it's showing the ID set, and you will start the process. On the bottom, you got some rubber feet, and that's about it for that. Now, my only complaint about this is if you take a look at the box over here behind me, you will see the subwoofer that it's pictured on the box. It has a woofer placed on the side, which is a 12-inch woofer. Totally different subwoofer than what you get in the box. This is false advertisement for me. Kind of surprised that Costco is selling a package with a different subwoofer inside. This one with a 6.5-inch woofer in there is not going to have the same sound quality and deep bass that the 12-inch will do. This is one of my only complaints about this for so far, but we'll see how well this sounds. All right, so let's move on to the manual and the remote control. Now the manual, it covers everything in detail. I gotta give them that. It gives you all the information you need, which way to connect it, how to set it up, different ways of connecting it if you're using HDMI ARC or the digital audio, the optical connection or Bluetooth, troubleshooting, and also, you know, some information in here about the product. You got your specifications over here. And also, if you need to get some support, you can go to their website or call the 800 number. Let's move this on. Let's go to the remote control now. Now the remote control that it's included. This is a standard Samsung remote. It's similar to the ones you get with a Samsung TV. Same layout, same feel. You have a volume control. It's a rocker, you go up and down. And also if you press down, that's a mute button at the same time. They do have a dedicated mute button over here. Let's bring a little closer look over here. On the right side, you have another rocker for the subwoofer. Same thing, up and down to raise the level. And if you press down on the rocker, it will bring it back to the default setting, which is 0 in the middle. So you can go up to +6 or down to -6. You got a sound mode button over here, which changes the different modes. The sound modes from standard to surround sound, Game Pro, and DTS Virtual X. We have a settings button over here. This one, as you can see soon, this one you can just change different settings like the treble and the bass. You can enable or disable the rear speakers. You can raise the volume of the rear speakers. Then we got a directional pad with a play pause in the middle. And like I said, it only plays music videos on the USB port. So this one you can just change the song if you want to go to the next one or previous and play or pause. And also you use this for the settings. We have an input selection over here, so you can change your inputs. So if you're on HDMI ARC, it will go to cycle through HDMI, Bluetooth, and USB. You got a Bluetooth pairing button over here to pair your Bluetooth enabled devices. You can pair 2 devices at the same time. And then we have a power button on the top. This does include, it does come with 2 AA batteries. You just slide the cover just like this. And just insert your 2 batteries over there. And that's about it. Alright, now we got this covered too. Let's go hook this up to my TV and see how it sounds. Alright, now with the soundbar connected to my TV, I did use the HDMI ARC connection from the soundbar to my TV. And like I said, you need to have an HDMI port that's labeled ARC on your TV in order for you to use that. Otherwise, you will need to use an optical connection. Now your TV, if it's newer TV, it may say eARC next to it too, which is fine. That will work too. eARC is backwards compatible with ARC. I do not recommend using the Bluetooth. You're not going to get the best sound out of it. And also a lot of people have audio sync issues with it. For music, if you're playing music through your phone, that's fine. But when it comes down to video, there's more issues with audio sync using Bluetooth. than you would notice with an HDMI ARC or an optical connection. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the remote with some of the settings you can adjust. Now, like I said, the volume, you press it up and down, it will show you on the screen, as you can see in the bottom right. It shows you where you are on the level. If you press down, it will tell you it's muted. You can also unmute it from pressing the button, or if you press down again or up on the volume rocker, it will unmute it. The subwoofer, over here, the woofer level, you can raise it up to +6, and then you can just raise it and lower it down to -12. So you'll go from -6 to 12 right away. It doesn't have the 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. If we go to the sound mode, when you press the sound mode, you start with standard. Press it again, it will go to surround sound. Press it again, it will go to Game Pro. And then last but not least, you got DTS Virtual X. Now with the sound modes, this is something you're going to have to experiment on your own. Test it around, depends on the size of the room that you have, how far the soundbar is placed from your sitting position, how far the rear speakers are from your sitting position too. You will need to see which one works best for you, depending on what you're watching, because each one will be different if you're watching the news compared to a movie or if you're listening to music. Now if we move on to the settings, when we press the settings button, you start with treble. You can adjust this from 0 to +6 and then down to -6. You press it again, the next one will be bass, same thing, +6, -6. It does have an audio sync setting here, so you can adjust it 25 milliseconds at a time. It will go up to 300. Now this will work only with HDMI and the optical connection. It will not work for Bluetooth, keep that in mind. This one you can turn on and off the rear speakers. If you want the rear speakers to be on, you can have it on. If you want to turn them off when you're watching the news, you can just turn it off. And then if you press it again, this one is to raise or lower the volume of the rear speakers. So it depends how close they are or how far they are from your sitting position and which sound mode you're using. You may find that you may need to raise the levels or you may need to lower them. Something again that you have to experiment. And that's it for the settings. Directional pad. This is, like I said, it's for using them with the settings to adjust up and down the settings menu. The play pause, that works for the USB. If you have music files on there, you can play pause, use the right and left to fast forward to go to the next one or the previous song. Input, you can just change your inputs, and then pair over here. You can set the soundbar to Bluetooth, and if you press the pairing button for 5 seconds or so, it will give you the screen on there that says it's pairing, and then you can pair it with your TV or with your mobile phone or tablet. Now it will only pair with one TV at a time, but you can pair with 2 devices, like 2 cell phones or a cell phone and a tablet. If you try to pair a third one, whichever one is not being in use at the time, it will kick that one off, it will disconnect it and connect the third one. So just keep that in mind when you're pairing your devices. You can play the music through there. Even if you're watching video, you will hear the sound from there. But that's about it. Alright. So that's about it for the remote and the settings. Now let's talk about the pros and the cons. First, we're going to start with the sound. I was actually impressed, I have to say. I was impressed with the sound of it coming out of the soundbar and the surround speakers. You do need to do some adjustments in the surround speakers, depends on how close they are from your sitting position and which mode you were using. If you use the DTS Virtual X sound mode, for example, they are a lot louder, which I found more of a, you're getting more sound out of it, and it wasn't as a true surround sound. Obviously, it's a virtual one that they're creating. The surround mode was pretty good. You can tell the difference in the movie, you know, when they were playing something where something was coming from the back, you did hear that part going from the back to the front, which impressed me for the size of the speakers too. Having a 2.5 inch speaker in there, it was loud enough. The speakers were placed about 7 feet away from where I was sitting. The subwoofer, even with the 6.5 inch woofer in there, it did have enough bass where you can hear it, you will not feel it. It doesn't have that deep thump in there that you will have from a bigger subwoofer. But at the same time, this is a soundbar. It's not going to be anywhere close to a sound that you get from an AV receiver. No soundbar would compete with an AV receiver setup. But overall, I was impressed with the sound, I have to admit on that. I know you guys can hear a sample on YouTube. I can try to do one, but it's not going to do any justice. Depends on what you're going to be watching this video on. If it's a computer or a cell phone or a tablet, it's not going to do any justice to the soundbar. You're just going to have to take my word for that. But like I said, overall, I was impressed for it. Now, that is for the price of $299. So let's talk about the cons. At $499, I would not recommend the soundbar at a regular price that they're selling it. Only because there's a few flaws in here and certain things that for me personally are not worth $500. So let's talk about the cons first. One of them is the size of the subwoofer. When it's showing that the woofer is only 6.5 inches, and on the picture it shows a larger woofer in there. That's, like I said, false advertisement. The actual soundbar, I think, is a version of the Q60 with either less power or smaller speakers in there, or not actually working the same as the Q60. Like, there's another sound mode in the Q60 which is adaptive, which this does not offer. One other thing that I don't like about it, let me switch view, is the design of this module. Now, this is part of the package. It has to do with a power cord. Normally when you plug in something, this will be the way you're going to plug it in. I'm going to like to see it. There we go. Now, by plugging it in like this, since all your outlets are going to be towards the bottom, and you put it on a little end table, it leaves a gap on the bottom, on the back side. So I'll give you an example here. You can see I can fit this here, and that's because it's also pushing down on the cable here. Now, in order for you to change that, so you won't have to deal with a little gap and it's be steady, you know, sturdy, you have to flip it over and plug it in upwards. And then your cable wire, the power cable, will have to go downwards. Depends on where you're going to place the module. If you place it on the floor so it won't be in sight, that will be fine. Otherwise, you're going to have a wire going up and back down. I'm not sure why they designed it like that. You would have figured when they were doing it, they would have thought about how the cable is going to sit on the back of this unit. Let's move on. Now, the next thing is the USB port. Now, I tried to download the firmware that they have on their website, Samsung's website, to update the firmware of the soundbar. Unfortunately, it would not update. It did not recognize the file that they had. It would tell me no data. And I know a lot of other people had the same issue. Nobody has found a solution around it. I did try what they recommended on there, different thumb drives. I tried about 5 of them, different brands, different sizes. Did format it in different file system like FAT32. Anything that they recommended on there, I've tried. Nothing worked. So by not being able to update the firmware, not sure if it will do any update on the HDCP or on the sound modes or on the actual sound or something. If you cannot update it, you cannot find out. Which brings me to the last one too that I don't like, which is very important. Now this soundbar I picked because it also has an HDMI input. And I prefer to use the input on the soundbar than going from the TV to the soundbar for the sound. It will save me one input on my TV, and also at the same time, the sound goes directly to the soundbar from the back of it compared to going from the TV to the soundbar to process the sound. Now, since it's only HDCP 2.1, if the firmware was going to update it to HDCP 2.2, I wouldn't been able to use it with the Fire TV Cube, for example, or the NVIDIA Shield, or even the Fire TV 4K. This one, if you try to play anything that's 4K, since the soundbar is only 2.1, I'll give you a little sample here. I have a 4K video ready to play on the Fire TV. Now this is from the Fire TV Cube connected to the HDMI input. So if I click on it, this will be the message that you get. And this is overall for anything that you purchase that has HDCP 2.1. So that would be something you want to keep in mind before you buy it. You got to find out the version of HDCP that it has. If you're planning on using something, even if it's AV receiver or another TV, most new TVs are HDCP 2.2, and some of them may be actually 2.3, and they also have the eARC on there. But if you're buying a soundbar and you're planning on using the input and it has HDCP on there from the HDMI ARC, it has to be 2.2 to be compatible with your TV. Alright, so now let's go back home. So overall, my final thought on this, at $299, if you don't mind the HDMI part that you cannot use for 4K right now, I'm not sure if any of you that purchased this had any luck updating the firmware, and it did update it to HDCP 2.2. If you did, please leave me a comment in the comment section below. I would like to know what your experience was with this soundbar. I would not recommend it at $499. At $299, if you don't mind the HDCP 2.1 part, not being able to play 4K, it is a good soundbar for what you get. The soundbar, the subwoofer, and the 2 surround speakers. It's a good deal. The sound is pretty good. It is very loud. I can give you that without the distortion. So let me know if you own one. What is your experience with the soundbar? What do you like about it? What do you don't like about it? Have you had any issues, or did you find it a lot better than another soundbar that you may have had? It's definitely better than the TV speakers. But what do you think? Alright, I think that should do it for now. If you guys have any questions about this soundbar, please leave it in the comment section below, and I will try to answer any question as soon as possible. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It does let YouTube know you like what I do here, and also helps my channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe, and click on the little bell icon to get notified of any new videos I upload. Thanks for watching. This is DJ. Till next time.